Did you know that an HOA can legally bulldoze your home? It happened to the Smith family. And wait until you hear what came next. Before we dive in, pause for a moment and let us know where you're watching from in the comments. Shout out to Alex from Texas for commenting last time. We had just moved into a beautiful suburban neighborhood, filled with charm and promise. My family was ecstatic. It felt like the perfect place to put down roots. At our first HOA meeting, we were met by a woman named Karen. With a commanding voice, she laid down the rules, strict guidelines on everything from lawn maintenance to holiday decorations. I could sense tension in the room, whispered warnings about her reign as a Karen echoed. My heart raced. Was this really going to be our new life? We decided to tread carefully, hoping we could coexist peacefully. But I had a feeling it wouldn't be that easy. A month passed, and the excitement began to fade when a letter arrived. It was from the HOA, claiming our fence was in violation of the community guidelines. I stared at the letter in disbelief. I knew the fence was compliant. It felt like a personal attack, a way for the HOA, led by Karen, to assert their dominance over us. Frustration bubbled inside me. Why were we being singled out? I needed answers. After a lengthy discussion with my family, we decided it was time to enlist a lawyer. We weren't going to let them bully us. Dinner with our friendly neighbor, Lisa, brought some comfort. We laughed and shared stories until I cautiously broached the HOA topic. Her grin faded, and she leaned in, sharing horror stories of Karen's retaliation against families for minor infractions. My heart sank. This wasn't just about our fence. It was about survival. I exchanged concerned glances with my family. Were we really prepared to face this aggressive board? We realized we needed to stay under the radar while we figured out our next move. After weeks of harassment, we finally snapped. We wanted to organize a neighborhood barbecue to build community spirit. But when we announced our plans, Karen stormed in and threatened fines for not getting HOA approval. My heart raced as she laid down the law like a dictator. How could she crush something as innocent as a barbecue? We had to cancel, but the fire of resistance ignited within us. This was only the beginning. Frustration peaked one day when we decided to paint our home a color we loved, hoping to truly feel at home. However, the moment the paint dried, Karen appeared at our doorstep, furious. "This color is distracting," she declared, claiming it violated HOA standards. My jaw dropped. Were we not even allowed to choose our paint? I felt a surge of anger and a tinge of despair. This was unacceptable. Gathering my family, we knew it was time to meticulously document every interaction and violation. The day of the inspection arrived, and anxiety hung heavy in the air. We had prepared everything, from our paperwork to a detailed account of our home's compliance. When the HOA inspector stepped inside, our hearts thundered in unison. But moments later, Karen accused our home of being out of code. "You can't be serious," I retorted. My family needed to fight back, so we decided to consult a real building inspector who had a reputation for being fair. After the inspection, we received the news that we were, in fact, compliant with all codes. My exhilaration was short-lived when Karen refused to acknowledge the results. Instead, she doubled down on her claims, determined to sabotage our peace. My hands trembled as I held the inspection report. "We won't let this stand," I asserted, my family nodding in agreement. We resolved to confront the board and challenge them head-on, feeling a rising sense of defiance. At the next HOA meeting, our hearts raced as we walked in armed with the inspection report. I could feel all eyes on us. I stood up, presenting the findings that proved we were right. But as I spoke, Karen sneered, attempting to undermine our authority. "This doesn't mean anything," she spat, dismissing the inspector's report. Confusion filled the room as whispers circulated. How could one person wield so much power? The situation quickly escalated, boiling into tension and fury. Would we leave defeated, or could we galvanize those who felt similarly trapped? Determined to uncover the truth, my family delved deeper into HOA bylaws and neighborhood records. Our research revealed alarming discrepancies in how rules had been arbitrarily changed without proper voting. "This can't be right," I murmured to my family. We were on to something significant. Anxiety and adrenaline pumped through my veins as we devised a plan to expose the board's corruption. Gathering our resolve, we prepared for our next meeting with the HOA board. We would approach them with the truth in our hands, a strategy fueled by necessity, not just rage. When the day of confrontation arrived, we felt a mixture of fear and determination. As I scanned the room, I saw some familiar faces. I took a deep breath and presented our evidence, challenging Karen's authority. But my words were met with hostility. Karen, red in the face, spewed off accusations without a shred of proof. Tension bubbled, and I could feel the energy shift. Would anyone stand with us? As I gazed into the crowd, an elderly neighbor subtly nodded, signaling their support. Little did I know this was just the tip of the icebergs, and our battle was far from over. Armed with our findings about the HOA bylaws, we finally felt we had a chance to turn the tables. I sat with my family at the dining table, pouring through pages of documents and neighborhood records. It was shocking to see how the rules had changed without any resident votes. This isn't just about us anymore. This is about everyone, I declared, motivated by the desire to protect our neighbors. Little did I know, Karen was already plotting her counterattack, waiting for our next move. My adrenaline surged as we prepared for our showdown, determined to stand up for what was right. The next HOA meeting felt electric with anticipation. We confidently walked into the room, documents in hand, ready to challenge Karen's authority. As I started reading our findings aloud, an unexpected surge of support rippled through the crowd. "This isn't right," a neighbor shouted, echoing our sentiments. Karen's face turned a shade of crimson as she tried to interject. But we were just getting started. The atmosphere shifted from tense to defiant as allies began voicing grievances. Would we finally rally enough support to take her down? I felt hope blooming but also knew the fight was only just beginning. Just when we thought we had momentum on our side, chaos erupted. Karen launched a tirade, accusing us of spreading lies and disrespecting the HOA. My stomach knotted as she spewed accusations, throwing wild allegations to drain our confidence. "We're just trying to stand up for ourselves," I shouted back, my voice wavering slightly under her aggression. The energy in the room turned hostile as supporters began to waver under her ferocity. I exchanged worried glances with my family. Was this all going to fall apart? The stakes were higher now than ever before, and we needed to stay strong in the face of adversity. Determined to regain control, I reached out to other residents and learned they were fed up with the HOA's tactics. Our support group began to grow, arms crossing as they whispered about injustices they had faced. 2. We organized a private meeting to strategize on how to confront Karen and the board once and for all. Would this newfound solidarity be our weapon? Amidst the fervor, the fear of retaliation loomed, weighing heavily on us. As we planned, I realized it wasn't just about our home anymore. It was about building a community that fought for what was right. With spirits high, we arrived at the next board meeting. As I looked around, I saw a mix of familiar faces. Neighbors who had chosen to stand with us against the tyranny of Karen and her group. I took a deep breath, ready to speak when suddenly, Karen entered with an air of arrogance. Felt like a showdown was imminent. Before I could even present our petition for a community vote, she belittled our efforts, insisting we lacked credibility. I fought back my frustration, feeling everyone around us tightening their lips. Little did she realize her arrogance would fuel our fire. The tension crackled in the air. As the crowd simmered with emotion, I spoke up, urging neighbors to consider the power of unity. "We are stronger together, and we deserve our voices to be heard," I declared. Much to my surprise, heads nodded in agreement. Karen's expression twisted to anger as she tried to regain control, but it was too late. Her grip was slipping. Chants started to echo through the room, with citizens standing up to claim their stake in the neighborhood. For the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of hope surge through me. Would this evening solidify our battle for change? After an emotionally charged meeting, we set forth our plan to gather enough signatures for an emergency vote. I was approached by many supporters, some even with tears in their eyes. "Thank you for standing up for us," one elderly neighbor said, grasping my hand. But not all reactions were positive. Karen's supporters were starting to fight back, attempting to undermine our progress. The stakes had never been higher, and I felt determined to finish what we had started. We needed every signature and every ounce of support to take down Karen and ensure our new HOA could stand for fairness. With each day that passed, tensions rose. We canvassed the neighborhood, knocking on doors and collecting signatures, but Karen and her followers retaliated with threats and intimidation. One night, a group of her supporters confronted me, claiming I was ruining the neighborhood. My heart raced, and anger flared as I defended our cause passionately. I was furious but determined. My family rallied around me, helping to ease my anxious mind, reminding me that we had allies and that we could rise above their cruelty. This fight was about creating a community that prioritized fairness and unity, and we weren't backing down. When the vote day arrived, I stood outside the community center, nervously eyeing the residents as they filed in. Panic swelled inside me when Karen walked by, her smirk sure of the odds in her favor. "You think you can win?" she taunted. But I held my ground, fueled by the resolve of the people around me. Inside, as the ballots were cast, I couldn't shake my anxiety. Would our efforts be enough? The collective spirit of the neighborhood hung in the air, as whispers of support ran through us. This wasn't just about a vote. This was about reclaiming our home and our rights. As the votes were being counted, the tension felt almost tangible. My heart pounded in my chest, and the air was still with anticipation. Finally, the officials called for everyone's attention, announcing the results. My eyes darted between anxious faces and my family's hopeful expressions. "The votes are in, and the new leadership has been elected," the official proclaimed. I held my breath, praying for the outcome that could change everything. When the names were read, victory erupted in the room. Joy and disbelief swept over us, but I could see the fury brewing behind Karen's eyes. This was far from over, and I braced for the storm that was about to hit. With the exhilaration of our win still fresh in my mind, I couldn't ignore the looming threat from Karen. She hadn't given up, and whispers of retaliation began to circulate within the neighborhood. My heart raced as I saw her on the phone, likely plotting her next move to undermine our newly elected board. "We need to stay vigilant," I warned my family during our strategy session. "She won't let this go without a fight." With unease creeping in, I wondered if our victory would be short-lived. Determination surged through me. We couldn't let this stand. We had to prepare for whatever lay ahead. As our new leadership settled in, Karen's agenda began to unravel before our eyes. We learned she was trying to coerce residents into switching back their votes and spreading false rumors about the new board, claiming it would ruin our community. My blood boiled when I caught wind of her tactics. "We won't let her do this," I said at a meeting with our new board members. We decided it was time to counterattack with transparency and clear communication. But would our strategies prove strong enough against her manipulations? I could sense the tension rising again. After a series of confrontations, we decided to host an open community forum to foster dialogue and clear the air. I stood before a packed room, feeling the weight of anticipation. I explained everything we had accomplished and denounced Karen's tactics. The room erupted with applause, but just then, Karen burst in, her face a mask of fury. "This isn't over," she shouted, attempting to incite chaos. "You've made a terrible mistake." My heart raced. What was she planning now? Everyone's eyes were on me, and I needed to maintain the momentum of unity we had built. The forum shifted into a battleground of words, and Karen's followers, riled up, shouted accusations meant to undermine what we had just built. I felt the room's energy fade. Doubt began to creep in. "Why are you letting her control the narrative?" I challenged my supporters, stoking their passion. I could feel the tide turning as people rallied to our side once more. Strong, supportive voices rose against Karen. The stakes hadn't felt higher. We couldn't yield. I realized that this was a fight not only for our homes but for the future of our community. Fueled by the re-energized crowd, We quickly organized a neighborhood meeting to brainstorm ways to counteract Karen's disinformation campaign. As we discussed strategies, a neighbor raised a concern about Karen's threats of legislative action, asking if we were prepared for legal battles. I glanced around, seeing the fear on my neighbors' faces. "We fought harder than this and overcome," I reassured everyone. We began drafting a community petition to further solidify our united front. I felt the resolve among us. We weren't alone in this fight. But would our unity be enough to withstand the storm brewing ahead? The atmosphere shifted dramatically when we delivered our petition to City Hall. My heart raced. As we entered the building, I spotted Karen lurking nearby. "What are you doing here?" she sneered. The tension was palpable, electric. I noticed other residents standing tall beside me, determined to confront her. "We're here to advocate for our neighborhood," I replied with conviction. Karen's rage only intensified. "You'll regret this. I'll take legal action," she shot back, but this time her words lost their power. As we exited, I felt a mixture of triumph and apprehension. What would her next move be? As the weeks progressed, Karen's tactics escalated. I received anonymous threats, claiming that the community was falling apart because of our actions. Panic set in among residents, and I held an emergency meeting to address their concerns. Voices echoed in the room, filled with apprehension and anxiety. "We can't let her intimidate us," I asserted, rallying fellow board members and neighbors alike. Support resonated louder than fear, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over us. Yet deep down, I was left wondering, how far was Karen willing to go to preserve her hold on the community? One evening, just as hope was blossoming, I received word that Karen had filed a lawsuit against our new board. My stomach twisted at the thought of legal battles dragging us into chaos. I gathered my family for a heart-to-heart. "We can't back down," I said firmly, revealing our next steps. Armed with our allies, we began to build a robust defense strategy. Together, we located a local attorney specializing in HOA cases who offered us guidance. "This isn't just about us. It's about everyone who stands with us," I said, emboldening our cause. When the day of the court hearing arrived, the tension in the room felt suffocating. I stood in front of our attorney, trying to maintain composure as Karen entered with her legal team, who wore confident smirks. The judge asked me to present our case, and as I spoke, I felt the camaraderie of my neighbors behind me. Everyone had come together to support us. "They think they can intimidate us, but we're stronger united," I emphasized. Karen's lips twisted into a smirk, but I could tell from her eyes that she was frustrated. Optimism surged within me as I waited for the judge's ruling. After what felt like an eternity, the judge made a decision, and my heart raced. "The court finds in favor of the homeowners," he declared, and the room erupted in cheers while glancing at the deflated Karen. "This is justice," one of my neighbors shouted, celebratory laughter filling the air. I felt tears prick my eyes as we embraced in relief and joy. We had won. But then I remembered how relentless Karen had proven to be, and I couldn't shake the feeling that her grip wouldn't loosen that easily. Navigating life post-court victory was surreal. We celebrated our unity, but tension still hung over us like a heavy cloud. Rumors circulated that Karen was planning a comeback, and her attempts at sabotaging our new board continued. "We need to be on guard," I told a group of supporters during our weekly meeting. "We've come too far to let her take us down again." I felt the fire of determination burning stronger than ever as we worked together, reinforcing our community with love and trust. Yet the thought of what was lurking behind the scenes kept me awake at night, worried that we weren't finished with Karen just yet. As time went on, new challenges began to arise, revealing underlying fractures in our community that we hadn't anticipated. Some residents who had previously supported us now felt buyer's remorse. My heart sank when I learned a few had switched sides to back Karen. During a heated discussion at a meeting, worries swirled over the potential for division among us. "We can't let Karen divide us," I implored. The tension was palpable, and everyone exchanged worried glances. Determined, I rallied our core supporters, igniting hope and reminding everyone of our original mission, preserving the spirit of our community. In the final showdown, we decided to confront Karen one last time. As we stood outside the community center, I felt a mix of anticipation and fear. She arrived, flanked by a few supporters, wearing a defiant expression. "You've messed with the wrong person," Karen spat. "I'll fight until my last breath," she proclaimed. But this time we were ready. With newfound resilience, we pushed back against her threats. "This community stands united, and you'll never divide us," I declared, igniting a fierce spirit within everyone present. As tension reached its peak, we prepared to face whatever storm might come next, knowing we had each other's backs. As the Smith family and their neighbors unite against adversity, their journey proves that resilience and community spirit can triumph over tyranny. But what would you do if you faced similar challenges? We want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let us know where you're watching from, and share how you'd stand up for what's right. Your stories inspire us all.